In this video, I want to talk about 6 business trends that I think churches should consider embracing if they haven't already. Okay, so one of the tensions that a lot of churches face is the church isn't a business, shouldn't function like a business. And I totally agree with that. I've posted videos about this and I've talked about this, that the church is the bride of Christ and it needs to function in a spiritual manner. But I think there are some business functions of the church and business practices that exist in the corporate world that churches can embrace and learn from and function as a healthy organization that is still a spiritually guided conversation, that is still healthy spiritually. So it's not basically like we need to function like a business, but I think we could take some business principles and business practices and apply them to how we become more efficient and effective in the operations of our churches and not necessarily in the function of us as a church. And so I just want to lay that out there of there's tensions when we talk about business and church and how to do this. And I think we need to have healthy, practical, functional business practices. But I think at the end of the day, we don't need to be a corporate cutthroat in how we function. So when we talk about things like severance packages and that kind of stuff, like it gets a little complicated and messy. I'm not going to get into that, but I think there's some other trends that churches can learn from, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. The first trend that I think churches can learn from the corporate world is fractional executives. Now, this is things like CFOs or chief marketing officers. One of the trends that's coming, especially in startup world, is fractional CMOs. And so where somebody will be a chief marketing officer for like 4 different startups. And so what this allows is for high level, chief marketing officers to work for a smaller startup company. So they need that expertise and that leadership and that experience of a high level chief marketing officer. They can't quite afford that person, but they can get the best of that person. Instead of all 40 hours, maybe they just get 10 hours a week, but they get their best strategic effort and advice aligned to their mission and organization. So I think within the church, by having basically some of these kind of executive roles like CFO, when you're managing the finances, if you have somebody who is also a CFO for a local business or company, but they have some capacity to function as a CFO for the church and manage the function with the expertise that they have and even the heart for the church, I think having fractional leadership at certain roles within the church, I think can be very effective for both the church and for the individuals and leaders that want to work in a church, but they don't necessarily fit into the volunteer type of roles and they better fit into the corporate roles. And so if they can use their corporate experience to better serve the church in that way, I think it's a win-win situation. So I think fractional executive roles is an opportunity that the church can embrace and begin to integrate a little bit and learn from when it comes to the corporate world. The second thing is to outsource operational tasks to allow your staff, to allow your employees to focus on the things that only they can do. And so I think about things, and I run a social media marketing agency that helps churches. And so let an agency like ours run your social media so that your staff, and basically when I say run social media, do the video editing, do the graphic design, do a lot of the posting and the scheduling so that your staff can focus on the ministry. They can actually manage the comments and the messages. They can be on the ground and greeting people and interacting with people and out at coffee and lunch instead of behind a keyboard. And so allow some outsourced functions, or maybe even bookkeeping or legal or certain aspects of the church that maybe you have brought in-house that you don't necessarily need to do in-house, that there are outsourced agencies and outsourced functions that can help you with the administrative tasks of the church so you can focus on the ministry needs of the church and the needs of your congregation. The third thing is a hybrid workplace. And this is, basically work from home and all of that. And I believe actually churches were one of the first to do this, but it seems to me in some of the conversations that I've had that the church has maybe been one of the first to go back to, okay, we're all gonna be back in the office again. And the reality is most employees desired a hybrid approach to work, where they want some flexibility to work from home or work from coffee shops or really work from wherever they are, that they don't need to be in the office at 8 a.m. They can basically be at their computer and checking emails at 8 a.m. and then be at lunch with a church member, or be at coffee with somebody in the community later that afternoon, and not have to, kind of go back and forth and always have to be in the office. And so I think moving in a very intentional approach to having a hybrid office place, I'm a believer in being in the room and having FaceTime with each other, but giving significant flexibility to your staff at all levels, I think is a needed shift for most churches if you haven't already moved to a hybrid work environment. The fourth practice and principle that hurts me so bad, and this maybe does happen in the corporate space, but typically newer companies do a better job of rapid hardware replacement. And I'm basically talking about phones and computers when it comes to churches. And the number of times I talk to somebody at a church, like, sorry, my computer, I got to reboot it at least 3, 4, 5 times a day. And they've got a 5, 6-year-old laptop. You know what? You need to replace your laptop probably every 2 years, maybe 3 years at every level within your organization. You're creating such inefficiencies by having old computers. You're creating so many problems of having to fix them and having to go through the processes of fixing them, of having to restart them, all of the things that come with efficiencies from old hardware. Create rapid systems of, if your computer or your hardware is older than 3 years old, let's turn it in. Let's, whatever you do with old laptops, turn them in, get a new one, and maybe, you maybe donate the laptop somewhere. I don't know. But quit creating inefficiencies because your staff is functioning on old computers. Computers are not that expensive, and yeah, I say that they can be expensive, but you can find affordable new hardware for your church staff that is getting better efficiencies when you think about their salary and their time and really the ministry work that you're wanting them to do. So stop letting hardware slow down the ministry work that needs to be done. Create better processes in replacing. Don't wait till they're totally broken and put out before you replace your old hardware. All right, let's talk about hiring in the church and what they can learn from the corporate world. I've heard this from William Vanderwoomen and so many others, but the church, just like any other organizations, needs to hire slow, fire fast. And I think we, just like every other organization, sometimes there's this gap of we need this administrative assistant, we need this music person, we need this, whatever the role is, we need a new youth pastor. So we better fill the spot right away. And we end up getting the wrong person, and then we got to go through the heartache of transitioning them, and that's hard for that person. And the process of hiring wrong because we move too fast is way more expensive than slowing down and having a bit of a gap in the tensions of that gap. So we've got to slow down our hiring and be more thoughtful and intentional to make sure we're getting the right people for the positions. And then when somebody's not a good fit, we need to speed up the process and give a good transition plan for those individuals and help them transition. We don't need to, just fire them and leave them, hung out to dry, but we need to help them transition, because it's not good for them or for you to just drag them along when it's clear it's not a good fit. So we've got to get better at hiring slowly, firing fast when we need to fire, and be smart about how we navigate our staffing within our churches. All right, let's talk about number 6, and the one I get excited about, and that is AI integration. Every company right now is talking about where are we going to integrate AI into our organization. And I'm having that conversation a lot with churches. And if you're not already, I think you should be having this conversation internally with your even volunteer teams, with different people, of where does AI fit into our current flow? Where does maybe ChatGPT, could this help us in service planning? Where could this help us in administrative tasks? Where could this help us in different tools, or what are other tools out there that we could be using? And so look at AI, get to know AI, have somebody, even volunteers in your church, ask them, that maybe people in technology in your church, where should we be looking at AI to integrate into our church? It's a conversation that every company is having right now, and I think churches should also be having, of where is AI going to fit into our church processes and systems. And so I think that's another lesson the churches can learn from the corporate world. But I want to encourage you more than anything, let's be smart. Let's use good business principles. But at the end of the day, focus on pastoring your churches. Be a healthy pastor and leader. Don't obsess over perfection within your organizations. Get better. And I hope these principles will help maybe encourage you or challenge you to think a little bit differently about your operations. But I would encourage you more than anything, make sure you're healthy. We need you. As a church member who I love and care about my pastors so much, and I have the privilege of serving and supporting so many different pastors, I want to encourage you and take my learnings, and that's what I'm doing in this video. But I want to encourage you more than anything. I just want you to be healthy. If there's ever anything that I can do for you as a pastor or ministry leader, please don't hesitate to reach out. Read all my DMs on social media and would love to connect however I can. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it challenged you. And I hope you will take some of that advice. I look forward to talking to you and connecting with you on the next video.